Hello, my name is Andrea Thompson. I'm the founder and director of the Film Girl Film Festival, still streaming a few days. It will end November 20th, so watch our films while you can. Today, I am privileged to take a little bit of a different track. I'm here with a fellow film festival founder, in this case, the Milwaukee Film Festival, the Milwaukee Muslim Film Festival co-founder, Janan Najeeb. Janan, thank you very much for for coming on.
Well, thank you, Andrea, and it's really great. And like I was mentioning earlier, congratulations for doing a virtual festival. We were not quite so courageous. We actually canceled ours, and so it looks so. You definitely have fantastic films, phenomenal festival going on, and I'm really thrilled to be part of this right now. So this is definitely great.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm not sure it was courage, though. I wish I could take credit. Perhaps just ignorance is bliss. But yeah, glad I did. So glad I did. Why don't you? Yeah, it's a shame you had to cancel the Milwaukee Muslim Film Festival. Can you kind of just tell me about the experience of founding it? And it seems pretty obvious why, but can you tell me why?
Yeah, sure. The Milwaukee Muslim Film Festival has been around, I want to say 5-6 years, something like that. So we're also, one of the younger film festivals, relatively. But quite exciting because, first of all, we are the only Muslim film festival in Wisconsin, and actually around the country there are some different ethnic film festivals. Arab Film Festival, Iranian Film Festival, Pakistani Film Festival, but Muslim Film Festival, there's only a handful around the country. So we're still small, but we're really excited about that. And we started out actually more affiliated with UWM and holding a lot of the films there, although we're citywide, and we did hold it at a number of other sites around the city. But then 2 years ago, we were approached by Milwaukee Film and invited to host it exclusively at the Oriental, and so that's actually what we've been doing. And so so this year we canceled, along with, of course, Milwaukee Film went virtual, but we canceled our film festival. When you talk about why we did it, as an organization, we've been around the Milwaukee Muslim Women's Coalition for 25 years, and a lot of our work has really revolved around creating opportunities to engage with the Muslim community. We believe that that's a great way to dispel stereotypes and really promote community and understanding. And we keep looking at different ways to interact, and we have everything from a lending library at our center, which is the Islamic Resource Center on the south side, and we have book clubs. We do networking brunches prior to COVID, of course. We have seminars. We have so many events, summer reading programs for kids. And so the film festival was just another opportunity for people to interact. The films that we choose are films that really highlight some topic that involves Islam or Muslims or Muslim issues or Muslim personalities, etc. And it gives us an opportunity really to open up for wider discussion. One of the unique things about our festival is that after every single film since its inception, we have either a director talk, a talk back, or we have a panel discussion, or we have some opportunity to be able to engage. And the people that come, we're pretty well attended. The people that come genuinely are interested. And so I want to say that after every film, a good 90%, if not more, stay back for whatever session we're having.
Nice. And yeah, you've been in the Milwaukee area for a number of years, correct? How long have you been in Milwaukee?
I've been here most of my life. I wasn't born in the United States. I'm of Palestinian origin, but I came here when I was 3 years of age, and have lived in Milwaukee pretty much all of my life. The only time I was not in Milwaukee is when I got married. My husband's a physician. He was doing his residency in New York, so we were in New York for a period of time, and then we went to Virginia for his fellowship, and then we came back. And all of my immediate family, my mother, everyone lived in the Milwaukee area.
And in your perspective, I don't think it's a secret that there's a lot of Islamophobia in recent years. Do you think that has grown, or is it just more open?
I think definitely it has grown. I mean, there was definitely a spike after 9/11, but I think that it never totally went away, and it wasn't just 9/11. It had been present prior to that, but 9/11 it became very blatant. I think again after a few years, and there was a lot of effort, particularly by a lot of the social justice groups, to try and mitigate that. And so you started to see it kind of taper off a bit. It wasn't so blatant, at least not a lot of it. But definitely with the current administration, there was and continues to be a spike, and the level of, I think, blatant racism and Islamophobia is unprecedented. And in fact, what's different about it is that even after 9/11, to some extent, although some of it became kind of mainstream, especially with some of the talking heads on radio and TV and things like that. But still, people had a sense of, that's just not right. And so even if it was there was still a lot that was kind of on the margins of society. But what's been happening over these past for actually 5 years during even the campaigning is that it's become normal, and it's become normalized, and it's in many circles acceptable. If you replaced Muslim with almost any other group, people would be horrified at some of the things that are being said and taking place, and hate crimes definitely have jumped tremendously. But we're hopeful that hopefully things will change.
Yeah, hopefully the current administration is on its way out. It was voted out, so
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I think it was actually Aziz Ansari who said something like, Muslims are probably the only group where if you went back a couple decades, the civil rights for them would probably be improved.
Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting. Yes, absolutely. That's absolutely correct. But at the same time, to be honest with you, we are now in good company because yes, we are. We're being really harassed and insulted and everything else. But Latinos and Blacks and women and just so many different groups, almost every group outside of a very limited group are being targeted. So
everybody who's not white, straight, and male. Yeah. We've mentioned obviously the far right in this conversation, but I imagine you also get very condescending remarks from people who count themselves as progressives.
From that particular category, it's not necessarily condescending. Sometimes it's sort of like, a savior mentality.
The white feminism thing?
There's this assumption that as Muslim women, we need to be saved by the West, and that is not correct. There's that savior mentality. And then sometimes there's just, there's not a lot of knowledge out there, and there's not a lot of information, and even progressives at times are limited in the information that they're getting. And but I'm completely okay, especially as an organization that for 25 years we've been, working to promote really bridges of understanding and relationships. I'm always open to people asking, no matter what question, no matter how ridiculous they think it is, if it's really coming from a good place and their purpose is to understand. My issue and the people that I just don't want to waste time with are people that just truly don't want to understand and just have an attitude and assumptions that they don't want challenged.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because you're not just the founder of the film festival, the Milwaukee Muslim Film Festival, which is impressive enough as someone who also founded a film festival. You also founded the Milwaukee Muslim Women's Coalition and the Milwaukee Muslim Journal. So I guess your main goal with these was kind of push back against the stereotypes you were getting?
Right, exactly. And the idea that, there's really no Muslim media that people can listen to. I mean, you could sit and people, Fox News is on 24/7 and you've got all of these particular medias that are going nonstop. And of course, the Wisconsin Muslim Journal is a very small online publication. But you know what? We're still reaching people, and it's our efforts. It's our effort to counter, even in a small way. And I think that that's how it works. We can't, be responsible for changing the whole world, but we can definitely, try and change our corner of the world.
Yeah, I think definitely that's kind of what I've been trying to do with my film festival. And you mentioned Fox News. I don't know, I saw something online, I don't know who said it, but they said Fox News has done to our parents what they thought rap music would do to us. Because I've seen the change in people who over the decades, and it is horrific, and more people are talking about that and making movies about that.
It's interesting because after the election, my husband had this great idea, and I'm totally against it. But anyhow, he had this great idea that we need to start listening more to Fox News.
No. Sorry, that was just a reflex.
What people are listening to. And I cannot, my husband will every once in a while turn it on, but I can't last more than a very short time. There's just an alternate reality out there, and I just don't understand where it's coming from. It's kind of bizarre, to be honest with you.
Yeah, as someone who grew up in small towns in Wisconsin and also lived 8 years in Wyoming, it just brings, that's why I said reflexively, no, because it takes me back to a place that was very unpleasant.
Yeah.
As this weird, nerdy, awkward girl growing up in like one of the reddest of red states that burped out, to use one of the politer phrases, Dick Cheney.
No.
Yeah, it wasn't good. Yeah, Wyoming is the state where Dick Cheney's from, just to give you a sense of that.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Anyway, what do you think what do you think is like, we've talked about stereotypes and misconceptions, but like, what do you think is the biggest misconception you get just like moving through the world in your daily life?
Well, I always say there's two huge misconceptions, and one of them is that Muslims are inherently violent, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a whole topic in itself, especially when you talk about, you know, state-sponsored terrorism, you know, launching wars on countries that do not have weapons of mass destruction, etc. And
Oh
you think
yeah.
about how many, you know, how many countries really have been invaded for basically natural resources, for oil, for whatever. Um, and you know, the second biggest one is an assumption again that Muslim women need saving and Muslim women
Mm-hmm.
are not empowered, and that's absolutely not true. You know, if simply because there are certain parts of the world, and it's not, you can't also generalize about any one country, which is, you know, something that we
Mm-hmm.
can talk about regarding at least one of the films. The people that seem to have the airwaves and the people that are
Mm-hmm.
most, you know, represented, unfortunately, in the media are are really the fringes. They're the
Mm-hmm.
fringes, and they do not represent who Muslims are. And so I think that I always say that those are the two big you know, points of misinformation. And so that's actually one of the reasons that we founded the Milwaukee Muslim Women's Coalition.
Mm-hmm.
We have, you know, our board entirely all women, professional Muslim women.
Yeah,
Um,
all ages, and some wear the headscarf, some don't, some,
right.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's a variety. It's something that, you know, we're open to everyone, and our events are open, you know, to everyone. And in fact, more individuals enter our center that are from other faiths other than Muslims,
mhm.
and that's really what we're looking for our events and opportunities, just to interact, because you know, we want to counter that stereotype, especially about Muslim women.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, which is strange because, of course, you know, as Americans, we totally can't relate to, you know, fringes being empowered, you know. And yeah, and I think that, yeah, sometimes frankly, I think, yes, I think sometimes Muslim women are not empowered, but then sometimes American women aren't empowered. Everything people are trying to do here, they clearly, there's so many fringe elements who are so similar, that want to take us back 500 years.
Right,
So,
right. And don't forget, when you put, particularly in Muslim countries, and it will be
mhm.
the same even in countries that are not Muslim,
Oh
when you
yes.
have the issue of war and poverty and desperation, it's always historically been the case that women and children end up the biggest losers in those situations.
Oh
Um,
yes.
those societies then become more patriarchal. There's, you know, kind of a power struggle, and so there's so many facets that people have to think about when we look at particular countries. And you know, the film Orchestra from the Land of Silence, it kind of addresses to you know, to an extent about the Taliban, and still their efforts to prevent music,
Mhm.
to limit opportunities, you know, to limit opportunities for women. But
Mhm.
at the same time, that has not been the history of Afghanistan. Afghanistan was a modern country, in terms of, when I say modern, I'm talking about, you know, opportunities for women, education, position
Mhm.
of power for women. What women decide to wear, especially in the remote villages, you know, that's their choice. And
Exactly, yeah.
in fact, something that's interesting is that one of the, the arguments was that, we're going into Afghanistan also to liberate the women from their burqas. I remember that was a big line by Jay Leno and his wife at the time, and even was it Barbara Bush?
By everybody, really. We were
Yeah.
going to save the Muslim women.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so we are now at 20 years in Afghanistan. America has been now 20 years in Afghanistan. And even in areas that have nothing to do with the Taliban, the remote areas, because that's really where you see some of the burqas and stuff. These are some of the villages that for hundreds and hundreds of years, that's just how they've dressed. The cities have always been different. What are they wearing now? They're still wearing burqas because that's just their culture. I mean, we don't have to agree with that, but we can't always take our yardstick and carry it around the world and sort of set the standard that this is what you should act like, and this is what you should look like, and this is what you should believe, and da da.
Janan, if they don't do everything we say, how are they ever going to be empowered women?
Yeah.
I'm so glad you laughed at that, but yeah, it's so strange how it becomes kind of a cover for the many ways, not just the U.S. but there's a backlash in so many other places against all the gains women and other groups have made. So yeah, it just becomes such a convenient cover to like point the finger at somebody else. Because obviously the Bush administration saw a huge backlash against women taking ownership over their bodies in every way. And personally, frankly, my feelings on the burqa are complicated, but at the same time, I would never prevent anyone from wearing them because I do not have the right to make another woman, to make choices about another woman's body and what she wears,
Right. I mean,
obviously that shouldn't need to be said, but apparently it does.
Yeah, I mean, no government should impose anything like that, and there's very few countries in the world that have that impose, certain dress codes, and under the Taliban are one of them. It's not all of Afghanistan, but you have places like Saudi Arabia, who, by the way, our president seems to be enamored with the brutal monarchy there. What kind of democracy do they have? And women are very educated there. They're empowered, but the government has a specific dress code that they require, although I disagree that I think that there has to be, and Islam actually as a religion requires freedom of choice when it comes to religion and freedom to choose, even your religion. But it also shows you kind of like the double standard. It's sort of, well, okay, if they work for us and we agree with them, then we will ignore their human rights abuses. We'll ignore their treatment of women.
Yeah, like most of the hijackers came from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So yeah, and but yeah, we seem to be getting away from the films. You mentioned Orchestra from the Land of Silence. Yeah, I deliberately sought that one out because while it mentioned the forces those girls were up against, it did not define them by like the Taliban and stuff. It followed like their journeys, basically.
Right. And I think
their ambitions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what was really important about this film, and I enjoyed watching this film, is the fact that it is representative of a significant number of people in Afghanistan. You know, they're just normal people.
Mhm.
The Taliban, and I hate to, you know, kind of keep going back to the politics and the history, but people need to know where they're coming from. The Taliban were actually empowered by the United States.
Yeah, in the 80s, right?
Absolutely,
I
because
think that was basically the plot of Rambo 3.
yeah, because they were sought out to fight the former Soviet Union who had invaded them, and unfortunately,
Mhm.
Afghanistan became the site of this horrible proxy war between the United States and Afghanistan and the Soviet Union. So the
Mhm.
Soviet Union, you know, was attacking, trying to take control of Afghanistan, and the United States was arming the Taliban. Why? Because they were these mountainous people, and they were the ones that really could fight in the mountains against the Soviets. It's a
Mhm.
unbelievable terrain in the mountains of Afghanistan, not the cities, but the mountains. And so you know, when they were actually successful against the Soviet Union, although they lost hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians in that war, and many of it because it turned into a proxy war. And unfortunately, what happened as the Soviet Union weakened, and it was really Afghanistan that led and helped in the breakup of the Soviet Union, helping us become a lone superpower. Um,
Mhm.
and, you know, we just kind of turned on our heels and left, and it's like, goodbye, you know, thank you very much. And we didn't do anything to rebuild the country, and we left all of these weapons in the hands of people that the Afghani people said these are illiterate people for the most part. They're in the mountains, they're very rural, they're very, in many ways, they're backwards thinking on a lot of things, patriarchal. Don't leave them with these weapons and don't leave them in power. But we didn't do anything.
Don't abandon us, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, and
Yeah,
that's exactly what happened. That's
you read in the 60s about how Afghanistan used to be this tourist destination,
Oh
you
yeah,
know.
it's gorgeous.
So,
It's anyone
mhm.
that you know, knows anything about Afghanistan. It's you know, it's one of the most beautiful countries in terms of just the natural you know, mountains, all of these types of things, and the people were educated, and you know, they had the music, the orchestras, they had literature,
Mhm.
they had, you know, everything you can imagine like any other society. But this is what can happen within a short period of time, you know, with constant wars. I mean, we bombed Afghanistan into the Stone Ages, and anybody and everybody knows that we didn't need to do that. The United States is extremely powerful. They could have sent in groups to take out the heads of all of these you know, Taliban.
Mhm.
It, we did not need to have so many innocent people killed in the process. I mean, how many wedding parties got bombed by accident? How many schools and hospitals were accidentally bombed by us? These are things that people don't talk about, you know?
Oh yeah, and then there's at least people are talking about Afghanistan because then there's, you know, this country called Iraq that no one seems to be thinking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Or talking about anymore. Like, yeah, did we invade there? And like,
Yeah.
but yeah, we've talked a lot about orchestra. I'm really curious as to your opinion. So, what if the goats die? Because that's, I know I'm not supposed to play favorites, but I saw that one at Sundance, and that was one I was so glad I could bring to my film fest. So,
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I
mhm.
found it was interesting, you know, it's sort of set in the Atlas Mountains.
Mhm. Morocco.
These are the Berbers. These are like very, very, very kind of like known to be, again, they're the very small villages in, like Tunisia and Morocco and Algeria. Many
Hmm.
people, at least the group that was highlighted here. These are, goat herders and farmers, and they just have lived a certain way, and they don't speak Arabic, they speak a Berber language, which is again specific to these particular individuals. But I found it really interesting. There were a lot of things that were I thought highlighted that I thought was very nice, in
Hmm.
terms of giving you a bit of the culture. The idea that they're very remote and very almost tribal, yet you find many of their women are empowered. You saw with the one that just decided that this is what she was going to do and got
Yep,
on
she
her
just
little,
decided screw this.
yeah, and did that. The other thing is that they're very in their own way, might not always come from a place of real knowledge, but their heart is tied to God, and they're very God loving, and they depend on God quite a bit. And you saw with the young man and the way that he spoke to his dad, and what his dad kind of told him, and his respect for his dad. This is also very traditional in many of these tribal groups. Parents are really highly regarded.
Hmm.
And even the idea of carrying these goats. I mean, you've got all this stuff going on, and your son might end up dying going to get some food, but these goats are really important, and the dad
Hmm.
carrying a goat, and this is I think valuing nature, valuing animals. It's a simple life. It's a simple life, and it's a throwback if we look back even in our country to centuries ago. Just in small remote areas where people
Hmm.
would farm their own kind of lot, and just people, there won't be human beings for hours, hours on their horses, or however kind of mode of transportation they had. So I thought that was interesting. The whole the whole story about a supernatural phenomenon. I thought that was an interesting take on it.
Yeah, the filmmaker, the director is actually Moroccan.
Right.
And so, yeah, and it really shows, I think, it just the intimacy, like you were talking, the way they were speaking, and such a grasp of this way of life that really didn't come off in a stereotypical way.
Right.
Um, and yeah, these were all, she said these were all professional non-actors.
Mm,
So yeah, she just basically she found these people, and I don't think she like asked her which about sci-fi movies inspired her, and she actually hadn't seen a lot of sci-fi.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
the one she kept citing was Arrival.
Mm,
So,
interesting.
mhm.
Interesting. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I especially wanted to bring that one because well, obviously I wanted to make the festival as diverse as possible, but I also wanted a story about Islam and Muslims that didn't revolve around violence.
Mm, hmm.
Like I wanted stories like that, and I liked that it brought that sci-fi to a place where I don't think I've ever seen it before. I know it probably exists, but it just doesn't. It just is. probably hasn't really been accessible to me, or I haven't heard of it.
And that's a really interesting point, because so many, and even with our film festivals, so many films, especially those that come, for example, where you have the directors are Muslim, they'll
Mm-hmm.
revolve around history, they'll revolve around relationships, they'll revolve around family, personalities, a lot of these politics, a lot of these things. But I also have to agree that I don't recall seeing a film, I don't recall a film about, a sci-fi film like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me either. So that's why I felt so privileged. Like I said, not trying to play favorite, swear, but I felt so privileged to be able to to bring that to Milwaukee, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, again, women didn't make much of an appearance, but like you mentioned, that female character who just decided, to me, these creatures are a blessing. This is how I'm going to live my life.
Right.
But
Yeah.
so yeah, very much non-stereotypical. And yeah, and obviously actors have been discussing this for a while, how few opportunities they get to play anything. But they said, yeah, on my resume I play terrorist number 3 a lot.
Yeah.
Like even the lead of Aladdin, Mina Masood, he
Yeah.
said, yes, I don't have anything else coming up, any other movie. He said, this is it. A guy who acted in
Fortunate, yeah.
a guy who acted in one of the for basically the company that owns us all now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he who knows what kind of opportunities he'll have, and he was incredible in that movie, which I thought was middling.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I think, we sort of look at different groups kind of as if they're sort of, this is kind of like an exception. This is unusual, and especially when you see, like you mentioned about, Muslim actors. That's the role that's the only role they seem to find, or the female Muslim woman actors. They're always the abused woman,
Mhm.
or something like that. But if we look not too long ago, I mean, what were black actors? They were always looking as the criminals or the pimps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You look at the Mexican, or Latino actors; they were always delegated to being the drug addicts or the drug dealers, or the gangsters. And so it's
Or if they weren't, they were the token best friend.
right. And so, unfortunately, I don't know why it is here in our culture in America, that any newer group that comes, we have to they become sort of like the scapegoat or whatever the case is. And then eventually they kind of work, they become known, they become empowered, they
Ideally.
find a way where they're accepted, and then a new group happens to hit the shores, and suddenly they're the new scapegoat.
Yeah. And yeah, we're talking about the wider industry, but that plays out in Milwaukee too. I've mentioned, yeah, I live in Chicago now, but I lived in Milwaukee a number of years, and yeah, it can't be denied that I see the segregation here in Chicago and in other cities I visited, but Milwaukee is up there nationally. It's listed as the most segregated city in
Yeah.
the U.S.
Yeah.
And yeah, what do you think Milwaukeeans can do to kind of like dismantle this, or just make more progress?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of work to be done, because you can build relationships, and there are many groups that keep trying to work to build relationships and things like that. But when they talk about structural racism, it's real. It's real.
Oh, yes.
And there needs to be a lot more done to really delve into that and to work to dismantle that. And that has to be at many, many different levels. You find that relationships are sort of built with more of the social justice groups, these types of things, but you need to see it happen in the big corporations. You need to see it happen at all levels of government. You need to see it, happen in many different ways. And there's got to be a zero tolerance for racism, whether it's in law enforcement, whether it's in factories, whether we're in schools, wherever that happens, because unless there's a concerted effort, unless that everyone is on board, and unless there are real penalties for really creating this kind of havoc in society, unless there are real penalties, we're not going to go anywhere. It's gonna continue, and we're just going to become a more polarized city and a more polarized country.
Yeah, consequences, that, and people making the effort to get out of their bubbles, because I admit I came to a few unpleasant realizations myself. Like the first year when I was looking for jurors, I was like, okay, here's my list. And then I looked at my list and I thought, wait a minute, all of the women I've listed so far are white, and I'm pretty sure they were all straight. So that was a very rude awakening. So I decided, okay, clearly I need to get out of my bubble more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely. And like I said, in at least the Milwaukee Muslim Women's Coalition, what we've been doing for 25 years is really trying to create opportunities for people to just get to know each other, because it's really, it's my belief that you have those that are just racist, and that's just who they are, and they want to blame, they need a scapegoat for their own shortcomings, and they only want people to live as they see appropriate, and they want them to live and act and dress and believe in everything as they want. But there's still a significant number that are open to learning, and some of that racism is almost really based on ignorance, and ignorance breeds fear, and so if we can work to sort of change that, I've seen it in my work. I've seen it a lot. And I think that at even if you can take someone who was hateful and becomes neutral, they don't have to like you, but becomes neutral and more open-minded to what's going on around them. You've won. You've done a service to society.
Yeah, definitely. Just trying to change the bit around you for the better, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how also on a more lighthearted note, how when anyone asks you like your favorite book or movie, you can't remember?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I'm about to ask you that. So do you have any like movie or film that stars or primarily stars people of Muslim faith that you think like people should watch, that's underrated, or do you think that kind of like is an exception to the stereotypes we so often see?
There are really so many. They're not, really well known, but there's one that hit theaters. I want to say a year or two ago. at least for a short time, and I don't know why, because it was really a phenomenal film. And now, of course, I'm not going to remember the name, but
Oh, I
it,
was ready to Google.
yeah, it's related to the Queen of England, and the fact that
Oh,
her this was and I'm trying to remember which queen it was. It might have been the grandmother of Queen Elizabeth, but this was actually when India was still under the colonialist rule of England, and they had sent a just kind of like a Muslim, for lack of a good term. He was just a simple person to help deliver a medal that of honor that was to be given to the Queen, and he became her confidant. He became her window to the world. He became her window to the subjects that they were governing in India. He was Muslim. What's fantastic about it is that it's a true story. And
Victoria and Abdul.
yes, there you go, Victoria and Abdul. Yes. So
I didn't
they
see
have
it,
a
but I
book
wanted
about
to.
it as well. And I think that if someone just had, wanted to watch a film, it's a great just family film. It's also humorous. I love films that, too often films that are coming from Muslim directors, as well as those that are being done by individuals from other backgrounds. And unfortunately, they're often dark or depressing because they're relating to war, they're relating to
Mm-hmm.
struggle, they're relating to something difficult. This is very lighthearted. It's very engaging. It really helps you understand parts of, to some extent, like some Muslim practices and traditions, and it's a story of history that hardly anyone knows about.
Definitely, definitely. Um, yeah, can you think of any others? I'm kind of trying to Google them now.
Oh gosh, I can send you loads of them. I'm trying to think. Let's see. Oh,
Um, I'm trying to like the
you
only
know,
one that really comes up is like Malcolm X, which I feel like I learned so much about a
oh yeah.
period in history about Islam actually and about him.
And there's also
But
one
that's not.
that we were going to show at our film festival before it got canceled about Muhammad Ali.
Mm.
That's also a really a good one as well.
Was it recent or
Yeah, it's a more recent film.
it wasn't? It was only about Muhammad Ali, right?
Right. Uh-huh.
So it wasn't like One Night in Miami.
No, no. Yeah. You kind of caught me off guard. I would have kind of at this point in
Yeah,
my
sorry, I should
brain
have.
is kind of mush. So if even people go to the site of the Milwaukee Muslim Film Festival and look at some of our older film festivals, and take a look at some of the films that
Mhm.
we've had, I can say that most of them are phenomenal.
Do you have? You are an activist, obviously, and in so many areas throughout the Milwaukee community. What do you love most about what you do? Like,
There are
'cause
a
I
lot
assume
of
you love what you do.
Yeah, there are a lot of things, and actually, my background is microbiology. I went into social justice work because it spoke to my heart. And there's so many things I can talk about, whether it's, kind of changing hearts, whether it's, meeting people, whatever. There's so many things that I could talk about. But honestly, if I had to choose just one thing, I would say that, this work is hard work. It's, you have to be tireless. Sometimes it's, you feel like you haven't achieved anything in spite of all the work that you've done. There are days that you feel that way, but it's also something that I go home every single day and I sleep great at night, and I feel that I did everything that I could as a person and as an activist, a social justice activist. That's all you can ask for.
And what can non-Muslims within the Milwaukee community and elsewhere, in your opinion, do to kind of push back against Islamophobia and prejudice in general, do you think?
Well, I think first of all, if you don't have Muslim friends, try to meet Muslims. I'm willing to be your friend.
Well, thank you. I'm willing to be yours as well.
So anyone that's out there, really meet some good Muslims. There's just like any other group, there's mainly fantastic people. Every once in a while you'll run into a jerk or two. So make sure that you're meeting fantastic people and really get to know them, And I think what's really important is just to stand up for what is right and not put up with people being racist and saying something that is just not acceptable. I think of Archbishop Desmond Tutu, even during South African apartheid, when he said that it's not that the people that just people that say something and stand up to it, but the problem is the people who are silent are then also part of the problem, because they're not doing anything to stop it. And so you will find that within every family, within every group. You're bound to be in groups where someone says something, and not just about Muslims, about any other group or faith group or ethnic group or racial group or gender group or whatever it is, says something that honestly, for a decent person, just shouldn't sit right with them. And it's important to not be silent. And I think sometimes we have to start right within our families and Uncle Bob, who just doesn't know what he's talking about sometimes, and just set these individuals straight and try and form them,
Definitely. And you know what? Do you have a favorite movie in general? Or a favorite couple of movies?
Movie in general is Gandhi.
Gandhi?
Yeah.
I keep meaning to see that one, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's an older film. I do like it because it, it just it shows the power of nonviolence. It also shows the strong collaboration of different, religious and socioeconomic groups, and how when they all come together, and it's the recognition of not being a subject under a foreign power and a group that believes that they're superior to you. And with the oppression of Muslims right now in India under this, Trump-loving Modi, it's just, it's one of those kind of timeless films.
Yeah, I'll really have to try and see it. Yeah, I haven't seen a review.
Yeah, it's a long film, but I think there's so much to it.
And with the little time we have left, what's up next for you?
Oh gosh, we're just really busy. We have normally in December, the first Saturday of December, our organization has their annual fundraising gala, and we usually do it at the Market Center for the Performing Arts.
Ooh,
We usually have between 400 or 500 people attend. It's a great event, and we raise a lot of the funds really to keep our doors open and the staff on and for our programs. And unfortunately, everything's been canceled, and we're sort of wow, we need to do something. And so what we're going to do is we're going to keep it for December 5th, which is the first Saturday of December, but 7 o'clock p.m. But we are going to have a virtual gala, and it's going to be through our Facebook and our YouTube, and I hope your audience will join us. And even if you give
same.
$5, we hope for a good event. Congresswoman Gwen Moore is dropping in to speak,
Oh, wonderful.
and Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes as well. And we're confirming some other awesome speakers. We'll have a comedian as well. So it'll be a nice, hopefully, hour. We haven't gotten it all together yet, but it'll be between an hour or 90 minutes. Yeah, we hope people will drop in.
Same here. Send me the link. I'll try
Yeah.
and do some promotion and everything.
Sounds awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me and speaking with me. And yeah, best of luck with your gala. I hope people will be able to attend your film festival again in person and mine. Now that I come to think about it.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Andrea. This was great, and thank you for the
Thank you.
opportunity to discuss the films. I thought they were great films, and
Thank you.
your list of films are phenomenal. I hope everyone is able to catch the last couple of days of the festival. I will certainly plan to catch a few of these films as well.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Good night.